I'm going to take a look at Pro Gaiden Blazing Tornado for the Sega Saturn. Now this game was released in 1995, but it originally hit the arcades in 1994. So this game isn't exactly identical to the arcade game, in good ways and bad ways. Well, first of all, the arcade is titled Blazing Tornado. The Sega Saturn version is titled Pro Gaiden Blazing Tornado. And one reason I think they might have done this is because on the Sega Saturn version, they changed the grappling system. On the arcade version, to do a grapple, you just simply walk up to the opponent and just start tapping the button as fast as you can. But the Sega Saturn version of this game uses the timing system that we see in all the other Fire Pro Wrestling games. Personally, I think that change alone makes the Sega Saturn version a lot better. Because I've been playing the arcade game, and when you get into that grapple, you have to quickly just start tapping that button like a fucking madman, just bashing that goddamn control. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. 90% of the time I lose the grapples on the arcade game, and that's on easy. So the Sega Saturn made it a lot easier. In fact, the game is actually pretty fun now. So getting into the gameplay, this is a pretty straightforward wrestling experience when it comes to the Fire Pro Wrestling series. So there are 8 selectable characters, each with their own moves and fighting style. Now when it comes to modes in the game, there's really not a whole lot to choose from. Really all there is one-on-one battle. I mean, there's circuit battle, elimination mode, and some other modes in there too, but when it really comes down to it, it's always just one-on-one battle. And this is based off the arcade game, so it's really a straightforward experience. There's really nothing else to do besides one-on-one battle. I mean, there's no edit mode, and there's no other modes in the game, so that's really it. Oh, and one thing left out from the arcade game that could have made this game a lot better is Tag Team mode. Tag Team mode is exactly like Battle Royal on Saturday Night Slam Masters. You would have 4 wrestlers in the ring at once fighting. Now, I don't know why the hell they decided to leave that out, but that would have been a great addition to this game. It would have added some sort of dynamic to it at least. So considering there's other Fire Pro games out there that play pretty much the same but have a lot more to offer, there's very little reason to play this, but given when the game came out in 1994, it was a pretty solid wrestling game. So my feeling is, if you make any wrestling game play like Fire Pro Wrestling, it's going to be pretty decent, and that's exactly what this is. So I actually think it's kind of funny that they decided to put this game on the Sega Saturn. I mean, visually, it's not the most impressive game in the world, nor does the game have too much to offer. I mean, these visuals aren't exactly much better than Saturday Night Slam Masters. With that said, why didn't they just put this game on the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo? So the 16-bit consoles can't bring you the arcade perfect graphics like the Sega Saturn, but given an effort, the visuals can be pretty damn close, and the gameplay can still be true to the arcade. So let me go ahead and wrap up this review. All in all, this is really a great wrestling game. In comparison to what else we saw in 1995, it's definitely one of the better ones. So I'm going to give this game a C. I would have liked to give this game a better score, but for Sega Saturn standards, not very impressive. I mean, the Super Nintendo could have done this game justice. So I'm really going to only recommend this for hardcore Fire Pro Wrestling fans.